Kral Space. I'm Kim Kral. I am reporting to you not live for the 100th time from my closet. Guys, it's episode 100. I'm really excited about this. This is really rad. I can't believe I recorded 100 of my own episodes. And not even to mention the new Patreon exclusive episodes. Like, feels really rad. Oh man, it feels really rad. I have no idea where I got the recording live from my closet. I mean, I think it's like, as a lot of you know, I started this because, and I'm going to talk all about the origin of Kral Space. It feels really rad. It just feels really cool. And I was like, God, reporting live, not live from my closet. I was like, where did I get that from? And I think most of you know, before the world ended, I had a show on Dash Comedy Radio that was with another comedian, and we had kind of a breakup, I guess. It's funny, we're actually messaging each other right now, and it goes back to say, from like I've said it a million times, many ways, Merry Christmas, that it'll always be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it is not the end. I need that reminder constantly, and I believe it to my core, that if you were going through something right now and you were like, shit is fucked up, it will always be okay in the end. Always. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. And I have the biggest example ever, is the relationship with my dad. But yeah, so that the guy and I we had a live radio show. So it was always, we're coming to you live or whatever. He always did the intro. And it's so funny how different I am now. And I know a lot of this is the podcast that I'm comfortable. This is the first solo project I have ever embarked on. I'm gonna go down a trip to memory lane. So if you're a new listener, or if you jump around, you'll now get to hear, or if you're an old time listener, because I know there's a lot of you that like I didn't know before this podcast, that maybe we've never met before and we're friends on the socials now, or even if we've never even interacted and you just listen and you've listened to all 100 episodes. I just thank you. This has been such a wild journey to me. This was the first project I embarked on my own. I always had, and not in a negative way, but I always had some male partner in some form. Like anytime I was producing a show or anything, I always had a partner, and it was usually male. And doing this on my own was really scary. And I'm really breathy today. I can't wait, guys. It's like 1 month and 5 days. I get to go get a lung check. I'm terrified. They're going to go, nothing's wrong with you. It's all in your head. Or they'll say the same thing every other COVID doctor has said. It was just like, I don't know. It's just long haul COVID. We'll see what happens. I'm like, I'm just so tired of being so winded over nothing. But, the start of the pandemic, I had this radio show with this person, and, our friendship was really suffering because we, I know I wasn't in the most healthy of places. I can't speak for him, and I can't speak for where he is now, but I wasn't in the most healthy of places, and I was reacting a lot instead of, acting, instead of taking a beat when someone spoke to me in a way I did not appreciate. And so when the lockdowns happened, Dash was shut down. There was no, we just went into repeats, and we were like, let's do the best of the Kim and Ken show. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I've talked about this in many ways, many times. You guys know what I mean when I go, it's been said many times, many ways. Merry Christmas. It's a Christmas song. Anyway, I've said it on many platforms. I've said it in here a bunch of times, but like when we knew the world was going to shut down, when we got word that we were going to have to be indoors for 2 weeks, which is, doesn't that feel like it was like yesterday and also 16 years ago, 2 weeks. But I was like, not well emotionally. Like I was like, on paper, it looked like I was doing fine. I was on unemployment because the nightclub that I was working at was remodeling. So I was going to take like a month to just like focus on my stuff. But like, I just gotten into like one of the biggest comedy festivals in our country. I don't know why I'm talking so weird. But one of the biggest comedy festivals, like one that like is really hard to get into and really exciting. And it's actually this weekend. I think they haven't had it since the one that I was in 2020, and they're having it finally. These guys are awesome. If you're in San Luis Obispo, please go check it out. I believe it's this weekend. A lot of my good friends are in it too. It's the slow comedy festival. But so I had just done that, and that was like a huge deal to get into, right? I crushed that festival, made a lot of friends, crushed it. But I did. I had one of the best sets I'd ever had in front of one of the biggest audiences I've ever had. And I just reconnected with old friends, made new friends. I just got my hair, I just did a big hair modeling job. I like on paper, everything looked like it was going according to plan, or like my dreams were taking off. But emotionally and spiritually, I was not well. And when they announced that the world was going to shut down and we were going to be indoors and not be around people, I live alone, and I was terrified. What I was going to do alone to my, with my devices. As I've talked about in a lot of, and I've talked about a lot in Crawl Space, is my own struggle with depression and suicidal ideologies. I think that's how it says. And I was really, really scared what I might do on my own. Not really like, oh, I'm going to kill myself, but like, it wasn't off the table, right? And I had a sponsor, an ACA at the time, a different sponsor. I'm sponsorless now, actually. That's a whole other story that I've kind of kept close to the chest. But that my recent sponsor and I have decided to part ways, which is wild. But it's opening space for, like I said, it's always going to be okay in the end, man. And it's opening space for just like different relationships that are what I need right now in terms of like support and honoring my true self, and it's just so funny when you make room for stuff that is healthy for you by getting rid of things that are not necessarily in your best interest. The universe just like pops up and gives you exactly what you need. But I had the sponsor and I had called her and she was very dismissive. Not the one I always talk about, not the one that I've recently parted ways with. And it was amicable and it's fine. And the first sponsor number one, it wasn't amicable, but I think we're cool. I don't fucking know. But she was really dismissive because I called her and I was like, I'm scared. And she was like, yeah, everybody's scared. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do for money. I don't know what I'm going to do like personally. Like there's no meetings. Like I was like really scared. I wasn't going to go to any meetings. I was just going to be locked in my apartment, and my brain can turn into a demon and I have a part of my brain that is my worst enemy. And if and where I was at the beginning of 2020 was like making sure everyone around me thought that I was thriving and doing okay, but inside I was fucking drowning, man. And I told my sponsor that I was really scared, and she was like, everyone's scared. It was like, that's not when I am a sponsor one day, that will not be. You learn a lot from mentors and sponsors and how you want to do things and how you don't. And I know that like it was just so dismissive, and I was just like, and it was just basic. Like she basically was like, yeah, we're all freaked out. What's your problem? Like you're not unique. And I get like, yeah, 100%. I was not unique in that I was freaked out. Everybody was freaked out, right? But like when you're there to be a support for someone, telling them that they'll be fine because everyone's freaked out is not supportive, at least in my experience or my opinion, right? And so I just did what I always did. I shut down with her. Like it was just like, okay, you're right. I'll be okay. Thanks for answering. Okay, I'm fine. Yep, fine. Yep. Like, and I do that. Like as soon as I find out someone is not a safe person to like go to for support. And I'm dealing with that a little bit right now with a few relationships where I'm like, oh, you are not the support I want or need. And I'll shut down emotionally. Like it's like once I am unable to open up to you, like once I know you're not safe to like open up to, and it only takes one time. And I know that that is a defect I have where I just burn it down and walk away. I'm working on it. But yeah, she was just very dismissive. And I got off the phone and I remember I was walking around my neighborhood and I remember exactly the spot I was in. And I was just like, I'm fucked. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I thought, well, I have a couple of like one option. I had a friend who, the pandemic, and she quoted Alex Jones 2 days ago on her social media. And I was like, Jesus, she's like way further down than I thought she was. But the pandemic and her political views and all that stuff has, we're not friends anymore. I wish her well. I hope she finds her way back, but yikes. But she had texted me and she goes, and the world, we had just shut down. It was like, you got to be indoors for 2 weeks to keep everyone safe. And she texts me and she's like, I'm going to have a big party this weekend, or it was St. Patrick's Day in a few days. And she goes, I'm going to have a party on St. Patrick's Day. Do you want to come over? I just went to Bevmo and bought like $300 worth of booze. So I'm just going to be drunk for the next 2 weeks and I'm going to have a big party. And I was like, well, they just asked us to stay home and not see people. And she was like, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm going to see people. And that was sort of like the moment that it was like, oh, we aren't. And then when she said she spent so much money on alcohol, I was like, I think if I drink in these 2 weeks, I'll kill myself. Right. Like if I drink alone in my apartment, that is just a recipe for disaster. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to go to your party and I'm going to not drink these next 2 weeks. And not that, I mean, I wasn't drinking a lot ever on my own or anything like that. But I know in the lockdowns, it would be a lot of people, and there's no judgment. It was a weird, hard time, right? A lot of people were like, I just was drunk. But I know for my own personal self that if I had spent those 2 weeks doing that, it would have been really hard to put myself back together, right? I was already hanging on by a thread, and alcohol is not my friend when I'm in a shitty place. And so I made a commitment. I was like, I'm going to try and be okay in these next 2 weeks. And drinking is not a way that I can do that. And as soon as I said that, this woman in ACA texted me and was like, hey, we've moved this meeting to Zoom. And then there were meetings on Zoom. And I was able to find my way back to who I am right now. And so there was so we didn't have the Kim and Ken show, and my buddy Matt, who I've talked about a ton, texted me, in the first few days of the lockdown. And he was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, man, because I'm not performing. I'm not like that. My life is around people always, right? Before the world ended, my life was around people, like, whether if I was performing or I was at the radio show or whatever, right? Or my life was with people. And he was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. And at the time, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but I had just seen The Walking Dead for the first time. I started watching The Walking Dead and I made all these Instagram videos reacting to The Walking Dead. I just watched them the other day, like 2 of them the other day. And I was really distraught. Like I was like, they were hilarious. I think I'm going to put them all together and put them up on my YouTube. It might take some time, but I feel like I need to keep them documented somewhere because most of the time I either have no makeup on. Well, I never have any makeup on. And I always am in like some sort of face mask situation where I'm just like, Kral lost his eye. Like I'm just like blown away. And like, it's so funny. And so a lot of people were like, I'm watching those and I don't even watch the show, but just watching your reaction to the show is hilarious. So my buddy was like, my buddy Matt was like, I think you should do a show. Oh no, a show in my mic is, a show just you solo, just like Bill Burr style, just like yelling to yourself. He didn't say in my closet, but I was like, oh, I do voiceover auditions in my closet. And I have this little Yeti mic, this like shitty $90 Yeti mic that I've had for like 8 years. And the only reason why I say shitty is because I had it for like 8 years. It was like old and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I guess I could just maybe. And he's like, I really think that'll be good. I think, he was like, I strongly suggest it. Right. And so I took to social media like we all do, when we want to make a big decision. I'm just kidding. And I was like, hey, would any of you listen to a podcast if I started one? And overwhelmingly the response, DMs, comments, people text messaged me privately. A lot of people were like, I listened to your Walking Dead rants and I don't even know anything about that show. So I would for sure listen to your podcast. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And then I was talking about this today with a friend in program about podcasts and the best advice I had gotten starting this podcast. And really, I've used it for almost everything, with my book, with everything. I've just out of my comfort zone. My buddy, who is he manages musicians. I almost said magicians, musicians. And I think big ones. I'm not sure. He has a bunch of like platinum records on his walls and shit. So I think he's probably pretty good at it. And he lives in a nice area, whatever. I know he's good at it, but he messaged me and he goes, hey, I really think you should start a podcast. My suggestion is just do it, record an hour and put it out there. Like, don't think about it too much. And because he was like, most people like will like, and I see it all the time, especially when, especially in art stuff and in the artist world, people want to make, and when they're starting their own business, I think everywhere people procrastinate, but they don't call it procrastination. They call it, well, I need the perfect pen. I need a really good microphone. I don't have a good title yet. It's just like a form of procrastinating. But they don't know it. It's like subconscious, right? Like, it's like, well, I don't have this. And he was like, just do it. Don't think, just do it. And so I was like, what should I name my podcast? And my other buddy, Dave Neal, so funny, my friend Matt Neal and Dave Neal were both a big part of why Kral Space is Kral Space, and they're not related at all. I don't think they've even ever met, which is funny because they're both comedians, but very funny people, very lovely people. Dave Neal was like, oh, you should call it Kral Space, obviously. This other dude said Kral Space 2 on Instagram, but he is a flaming Trump nut job who has blocked me on everything. So I refuse. At first, he was like, I came up with Kral Space 2. And I was like, yeah, but Dave did first. You guys technically came up with it like minutes between each other, but like Dave's not crazy. But that guy's blocked me on everything. And also no one came up with it, but my uncle Jerry, I think it is. My uncle Jerry has his email was Kral Space. My uncle Jerry, my uncle John, I can't remember, but they had Kral Space. So Kral Space was born, and I listened to that guy, and I got into my closet. It's very different than what it was. When I first started, I was high up because I had a bunch of boxes. I was high up. The walls were white and I didn't have a light. And I had this old Yeti and I had this like box that I would put my computer on, and I would put the mic on, and I would put the box on my lap, and I would just record in the dark. And, the first 3 episodes were just like my experiences. I haven't gone back and listened to them. And I know every week I promise I will. And, life gets busy, man. You all know, like, it's like, I got a mountain of a to-do list. I know we all do. Those of us, if you're running your own business and you're a one-woman shop or one-man shop, you got just like, there's never a lack. The real issue is finding time to not be thinking about work, right? That's the real challenge, because it's like I could work 24 hours a day nonstop and still have a long to-do list. But the trick is finding balance. And so I, at the first 3 episodes, I think they were just goofy shit that was going on in the pandemic, and, like my sitting at home and alone. I did find a thing. The first episode's called Eating Cake on the Toilet, because I made this big cake, right? And I find myself eating on the toilet a lot. And I know people are like, how? And I'm like, I don't know. So basically what happens is, and I explained it in the first episode too, basically like I'll grab something to eat like that, like the cake. I like cut myself a piece of cake. I made a bunch of cakes at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I made, all of us made bread. But I made a lot of cake, like big cakes. I don't know why. I'm not a big cake person. But I do like cake, but I'm not like a big. And so I cut myself a piece of cake, and then I'm walking around my house eating my cake. And then I'm like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. 2 separate thoughts. the cake and the potty. So I go to the bathroom with my cake and I don't think about it, right? And so I put the cake on the bathroom sink and I take my pants off. Well, I don't take my pants off. I pull them down. I'm not a naked pooper, and we talked about naked pooping too. I blew my buddy Whitney's mind when I told him how that my ex-boyfriend was a naked pooper. There's a lot of naked poopers out there. I think it has something to do with drugs because James did a lot of drugs, and I think he had to take his clothes off every time because it was like, who knows what will happen. And maybe he'd pooped on himself one too many times. So he just like took all of his clothes off and put them in the corner just in case it was explosive. I don't know. I never really asked him. It seemed like not a thing he wanted to talk about. But so I like put the cake on the counter and then I pulled down my pants and I started to pee. And then in the middle of the pee, I saw the cake and I was like, oh yeah, the cake. Again, two separate thoughts, right? I wasn't like, I'm peeing and that's cake. It was just like, oh, my cake. So I started eating the cake and then I was like, oh my God, I'm on the toilet eating cake. And so that was the episode. I talked about that in the episode. Guys, in the last 2 years, one thing that has not changed, so much has, but the one thing that has not changed is I find myself eating on the toilet more than I'm proud of. And it always starts out that way, where I'm sort of eating, then I go to pee. So I just bring it all in with me. And then I sit on the toilet and I just continue eating. And I say the sentence to myself, you got to stop eating on the toilet at least twice a week. Like, you're going to die alone. I'm not going to die alone. I know my person will find that adorable, or they won't, and whatever. But so the first, like, I don't remember which episode. I'm having a hard time breathing again, but I don't remember which episode I got vulnerable. I was working on my steps, the step work in lockdown. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful. If you don't know if you're not familiar with 12 steps, step 4 is basically, the only way I can describe it is basically writing down every bad thing that's ever happened to you, every bad thing you've ever done, every bad thing that was done to you, all of it down on a piece of paper. And then you tell someone else in step 5 every bad thing you've done or that has happened to you. And it is a grueling, horrifying experience, but a fucking game changer, man. And I'm so grateful I was going through that step in lockdown, because I was able to I would just cry. I mourned and grieved my childhood in a way that I don't think I would have been able to do had normal everyday life, before times had still been going. Because I did a lot of crying. And I don't remember what episode I started to get vulnerable in. I mean, actually vulnerable. But it was early on, and I thought, this is what I want to do. I don't have a unique story, but I do. It's unique in that it happened to me, but it's not everyone had this traumatic childhood, but it's also like a lot more people than did. And I've always wanted to. One of the things that I've wanted to do with my life is bring awareness around lift the stigma of sexual abuse. And because I'll talk about what happened to me and people get so uncomfortable. And I'm like, well, it's not my shame. I didn't do anything. And I think, and sexual abuse is so common. It's so common. So many people have been abused in that way. And because society has put this stigma on it and this shame element to it, and there's already shame that you put on yourself for having to go through that. And it's misplaced, but it is a very human react, like a human feeling around being molested or abused, is to have an element of shame, even though it's not yours. And so it started the little spark of what I wanted to do. Because years ago, I wanted to start a podcast. I had this idea, and I even bought the domain called Laughing Through the Darkness. So I bought laughingthroughthedarkness.com, and I was too scared to do it because it was too vulnerable. And I'm glad I didn't do it then. I'm glad it didn't come until I was ready, right? Because I didn't have the tools to do what I wanted to do and what I'm doing now. But I had a cousin, or have a cousin, who she's bipolar, and growing up, she, she was labeled difficult or bitchy or whatever. That was her like label in our family, right? And then it came out when she was early adulthood that she was bipolar. And she said even now she's told me that she wasn't able to talk to her parents as an adult about it, because there's just such a stigma around mental illness. And so there was like this. So I wanted to start a show years ago talking about mental illness and taking the stigma out of it, and even laughing about it, not laughing like, ha ha ha, you're bipolar, but like, you know what I mean? Like there's an element of hilarity in every dark situation. And I know not everyone can see that always. And I'm so grateful that I have that sort of brain, because it is how I've survived some of the hardest shit a person will ever have to go through. And so I wanted to sort of show about that, and kind of an ode to her, because she is one of my favorite humans on the planet. And I looked into it, and I did the thing. I did the, like, what is it called? Zig Ziglar calls baking in the squat. Like and that's like the bread never rose, so it like got cooked in the squat. And so many people get cooked in the squat, where they're like gearing up to jump, but they're like, they come up with all the excuses. Like the same thing I said about like leaping and just recording the podcast. Like they get caught in I need the perfect microphone. This isn't okay, I got the microphone. Now I need the perfect this, and I need the perfect that. And then if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, it will never come. And so I was doing that with my Laughing Through the Darkness. And then, I found other comedians had started mental illness podcasts. And I never thought, like, now I know that mine is not like theirs, because we're different humans with different experiences. There's that breath, baby. But I don't remember what episode I got vulnerable in. But then that was when it changed, when Crawl Space changed. And I know I was changing and morphing, and God, and I just am going, I wrote down some stuff I wanted to talk about with Crawl Space, and talk about some favorite moments. Oh man, my favorite episodes. Naked Checkers was one of my first favorite episodes. It had come about, my best friend from elementary school had blocked me on everything on social media. And who knows when she had done this, right? I have no, she could have done it 10 years ago. She could have done it 10 minutes before I noticed. But I saw a morning that I was going to record Crawl Space, and I was so sad. But it was like, I haven't seen or talked to this woman in 5 or 6 years. Like, I don't know who she is, what she does. I'm friends with her husband still on everything. He never unfriended me, which is wild. But so Naked Checkers was like my ode to her friendship, and like my tribute to like this very, very special friendship I had. She was the very first person I ever told growing up. I think one of the only people I told growing up that my dad was abusing me. And her reaction was that of a child. She was a child, and we were both children. She shut down and like didn't talk to me for like a week. And I remember thinking, check, don't tell anybody about this. This will make them not want to talk to you. Where, now I'm older and I'm an adult and I can see it, like, where obviously that was probably horrifying for her. But so Naked Checkers, I talked about that friendship, and I talked about telling someone for the first time, my dad was abusing me. And it was just like a love letter to lost friendships. I really love that episode, because it was like a bittersweet, sad, but it's also like, people grow apart, but I still remember Naked Checkers. If you don't know what naked, if you haven't listened to that episode, go listen to it, please. But she was very weird, right? She was my weird friend. We were very weird together, and we were both super weird, and we both, just super weird, right? Like, she's the one that I pooped in her trash can, and she recorded it. And my Jehovah's Witness Aunt Vicky got very mad at me. I was like in 6th grade, and I was like, oh, I pooped in Stephanie Norton's trash can. She's got a different name now, so you can look her up. You won't ever find her, but it's like, I pooped in her trash can, and she recorded it. And my Jehovah's Witness Aunt Vicky, she was like, you are disgusting. I was like 12. She got my mom to be like, you're disgusting. And they both like didn't talk to me for the rest of the night. And I was like, it was hilarious. how do you guys not see how hilarious this is? But But so we were, she was super weird. And one day we were sitting around, we were like bored one summer afternoon. And one of us goes, "Do you want to play checkers?" And the other one goes, "Yeah." And then one of us goes, "We should be naked." And the other one was like, "Absolutely." And I don't remember whose idea it was. All I know is the other one followed with no hesitation, was like, "Well, yeah, why wouldn't we be naked?" So we got naked, and she had a little brother who was like a year younger than us. But, when you're in like, I think we were in like junior high or high school, we weren't children. We weren't like 10. We were probably like 12. We were like 13 to 16, maybe not 16. And we're probably 13 or 14. But she had a little brother who was like a year younger. And, at that age, that's like eons. Now it's like we're the same age. But he had this friend, Michael Martinez, I think his name was, that we both had a really big crush on, but he was like a child. So we were like embarrassed. He wasn't a child. He was a year younger, but we thought he was a child, but we both had a crush on him. And he was over hanging out with her brother that day. And we're sitting, we're playing naked. We're naked and we're playing checkers and just talking like we're not naked. And in walks Michael and her little brother. And we're just sitting there in the middle of the room, casually playing checkers naked. And he's like, "Oh my God." We're like, "Get out. we cover. I mean, she had boobs. I didn't. I basically was like, I looked like a little boy. I was like, "Get out." And they got out. And then I think we laughed until one of us peed our pants. But that was one of my favorite episodes. It was really hard to record. I cried a lot. The ones that were my favorite episodes were the ones that I got really vulnerable and I was scared to record. I recorded 2 Me Too episodes where I talk about my experience being Me Too'd. And the second one was easier to record, but the first one, I knew I wanted to do it, but I was really scared. And I did it. And I did it. I mean, yeah, you guys know that it's out there. That was one of the first episodes that I got like a wonderful response from like strangers, like people I didn't know, that were like, "That really helped me. I didn't realize that this had happened to other people." And then another episode I really loved, that I'm actually writing a book, my second book, about 15 rules. I've now expanded it to 25 rules. And I compiled these rules on like how I live my life, right? Like I have these rules that I just like I don't answer questions I'm not asked. I don't go to the hardware store for milk, meaning I don't go to support to people who aren't able to support me, right? I'm still learning that. I got to learn that daily. I even wrote that down because we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Episode 100. I don't even know if this reminiscing is interesting or not. I feel like there's so many of you that have just been listening every single week for like 2 years and that we've become friends. And that just means a lot to me. I can't wait for this show to get bigger and bigger. I believe in it so much. I like the people that have reached out to me, that have strangers that have been like, "Yo, you've talked about these things that I've never heard anyone else talk about." Or someone said to me, "I say the quiet parts out loud." And that, I mean, yeah, I totally do. But that, like, I'm so great. And I believe in this so much. I just believe in transparency and the realness. And I'm just really proud of this show, and I'm proud of what it's morphed into. And I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that there are people that relate and resonate and laugh with me and cry with me. It just means so much. I am one lucky broad. So 15 rules. I was like, I was writing down these rules that I was like, I'm going to make an episode about this. And I was so scared to record it. Because I grew up in a place that I was invalidated a lot. And my kindness was often mistaken for either being fake or being stupid. And so in this last 2 years, the more and more I love myself, and the more I sift and sort through the past and forgive and let go, I have embraced how smart I am. But I still have a fear when I come forward with like, "Hey, I have these rules I live by, and I kind of think that you might get something out of them." I was so nervous that day that I recorded it. And again, the episodes that I was like the scaredest to record that I knew I wanted to talk about, I have gotten an overwhelming response of people being like, oh my God, this helped me so much. Oh my God, I'm going to write those rules down. A couple people asked me, they were like, can you email me the rules written out, because I want to put them somewhere I can see them. And so which inspired my second book. I'm writing another book right now. I'm Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. I wrote a fucking book during all this too. That's still thing I'm working towards. As I said, my goal is to get it in a bookstore by 2023. Like get that book second edition published by a publisher and put into bookstores. How fucking cool would that be if you walked into Barnes and Noble and there was my book right there? And then I got a second one on its way, right? And the 15 rules. And then there's episodes on the flip side of that where I don't regret like where enough to like, like I'm not like a Rogan where I said something racist and I need to take it down. That'll never happen to me. Because I don't speak like that, but regret, like as in like I feel differently now, or there are some episodes like mid-June, July, that I had some pretty big mask meltdowns, some pretty big Trump meltdowns, some pretty big BLM meltdowns. And not that they're not things that I don't still believe in, right? Obviously, I still believe in. I haven't changed those beliefs, but I've changed my approach and my softness to how I look at people that are ignorant. And I don't know if hateful, ignorant. Most of the time it's just plain ignorance. But a lot of time it's, hatefulness. But like I've changed my approach, and screaming about not wearing a mask now is just completely not who I am. And so there's a few episodes that I flipped out a lot about politics and mask wearing. Yeah, man. A lot of the show was, a weird love letter to a guy who lived in Seattle. I think he still lives in Seattle. I don't know. Who I thought I could love, who, I think I do love on some level. And I have a buddy, Roger, Poop Scoop Roger. He tells me he has a hard time looking me in the eye when he hears me talk about the guy who lives in Seattle, because he's like, it's just so fucking weird. And it is, and I can't explain it, but it's like, God, it's 100 episodes, man. And not only that, do I get to talk about like what I've been through, my mental illness. I have my mental illness. Another episode I loved is I'm So Glad You're Here, or I'm Really Glad You're Here, I think it's called. And it's where I talk about how I wanted to kill myself for like 6 months, maybe a year. I can't remember how long. I was pretty suicidal, but I talked about how I got through that, and my friends who have killed themselves throughout the years. And again, my favorite episodes were always the ones I got really vulnerable. I was thinking about I saw this quote the other day that was like, holy fucking shit, that's so right. It was like, the people you knew when you were hurting the most are not going to be in your life when you're healed. And the two women that were my friends when I really wanted to hurt myself, they're no longer in my life. One of them called me toxic when I told her I needed help. I will never forget that. I forgive it, but I will never forget that. There's a broad on TikTok who says that, like, when they say forgive and forget, like, I won't. No, that's stupid. I'm not going to forget. Like, I'll forgive for sure, but I will never forget. So like that girl called me toxic when I went to her and was like, yo, I think I'm going to hurt myself. And she was like, she's toxic. I will never forget that. And I will never, anytime I get a little nostalgic about that friendship, I remember that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's not a person I want in my ether at all. But I talked about, I'm really glad you're here. And it's just, God, what a journey, I just feel like I'm such I got distracted, but like, where it was like, they're not going to be your friend when you've healed. And they're not going to be able to be in your life when you healed. So let me say that again, because I went in a tangent like I always do. The people that were in your life when you were hurting the most are not going to be in your life when you heal. And I find that 100% true. 100% true. And it's been hard. It's been hard because a lot of those friendships when I was hurting the most, I've had to be the one to let that go, because I have a couple of friends that like were there for me when I was really hurting and suicidal, but they are not, they're there for like, oh, cool. You want to get really fucked up and drunk? Me too. And now I'm like, oh, I don't really do that anymore because I like myself. They're still in that I want to get fucked up and drunk. So it's like, there's not even just like, it's just different playing fields, man. It's so wild. I'm doing this, thing on TikTok. I think I've talked to you guys about. I started running. I picked a date. I think it's end of March. I have it written down. I picked a date to do the 5K. I picked a 5K. I'm really excited. I'm really sore right now and I'm having a hard time breathing. So I'm taking 2 rest days, yesterday and today. I did yoga yesterday and went on a walk. And tonight I'm going to do a good stretch yoga to hopefully help my soreness. But it's all about like, so on the TikTok journey, I'm going to be, I've been talking about my COVID experience, my long haul COVID experience. After this today, I'm going to make I think it's probably going to be like 6-parter on TikTok about my full COVID experience. And then, just this goal. So it's like the niche I'm looking for is just like, long haul COVID survivor. Yeah, I know that that's true because I did survive this. I'm alive. I'm so grateful, but it's just such a weird, but I guess I'm a sexual abuse survivor as well. Just seems like such a I don't know, God complex. I don't know. It just sounds like I'm a survivor and I know I am, but I don't like it. I don't like it. But so I'm documenting that and I've asked for some support from, my friends and you guys if you're on TikTok to follow me. And I've gotten some bizarre responses from people in my life. A few people are like, no, I'm not supporting that. Like literally like some bizarre, and it's so interesting because I don't take it personally because I'm like, oh, if you're having that reaction to something like that, that's a you thing. You're obviously going through something. And I'm not, but I found myself after a friend of mine was just really weird about supporting the whole situation. I found myself insecure about creating because I had what she thought in her mind on my mind, right? I was worried about what she thought. And I had to do some writing and outreach about it. And it was just oh, she's hurting on her own or she's dealing with her own stuff. Anyone who's I'm going to actively not support you. And you know what I mean? It's that has nothing to do with me and I'm going to keep creating and I don't care. That's none of my business, but it's so interesting. And it brings me to this weird lesson. It's just dreams do come true. Keep creating, keep doing your shit. And if someone is shitting on your parade or talking about you or not giving you the support that you think you should get from that particular person, move on, keep creating, keep swimming. The right people will find you. The right, and it's so funny because I was I was waiting for a response from this particular person text message, right? The other day, I text her something and she didn't respond. And I was all wrapped up in how she wasn't supporting me and how I, just all of my ACA bullshit, right? All of my child reactions to situations where it's I'm not good enough. If I was better, if I was smarter, if I was prettier, if I was all these things, maybe this person would love me the way I thought that they did, right? And as I'm all of my shit's coming up and I'm triggered as fuck because this woman's not responding to me. I have 4 other text messages from 4 other really supportive people who love me, who are excited for this, who no matter what I'm trying, they're we're here for it. Whatever you need, I would love to support you. I am Team Kim always. And I was oh my God, I am still going to the hardware store for milk. I am still doing that. And because of how I was raised, I go towards the chaos and the dismissive and the invalidating and the conditional love. That is my hardwire. And that is what this show has really been a journey of me not figuring out, but working towards not. And I don't think I've ever been so aware of it in real time that as I'm literally staring at my phone, wondering what I possibly could have done wrong to this person for them to have such a weird reaction to my TikTok videos, I realize I'm there are 3 other people that not only are oh, cool, I can't wait. Oh, this is so great. Congratulations I have a really big opportunity that's coming up. I can't talk about it right now, but I'm really excited about it. And yesterday I just passed a third round of, what the opportunity is. I'll tell you when I am able to. It's not an NDA situation. I'm just really excited. And this TikTok thing has made me realize that I got to keep some shit to the chest, right? Because there are always going to be people that are going to be like, I don't believe in you. But so I was like sitting there and I was just staring in real time. I was like, oh my God, you are going to the hardware store for milk with this woman. Meanwhile, there is plenty of milk. That's a weird, you understand. Meanwhile, there's 4 other people that are just Team Kim no matter what, unconditional love. And I'm learning to go towards the love now. And it's a journey. And it's like, it's a constant reminder to myself that I have to like be aware of, because my hardwiring is to go to the people that it's conditional, that it's like it goes towards negative more than the positive, because that's what I was raised around. And it's interesting because the reason why I'm like, keep doing what you want. So I worked this golf tournament last week, right? Very fun. Very fun. Can't wait to start golfing. But I learn how to golf, right? I golfed a little bit right before I got COVID, and now I'm hopefully going to do it again soon. Whitney, that's towards you, by the way. This is my passive aggressive way. Just kidding. You guys know Whitney. Even if you've never met Whitney at this point, if you've listened to 100 episodes of the show, you know who Whitney is. So I'm working this golf tournament, and this guy, and you guys are going to know who he is, so I feel weird about saying his name. This guy used to come into Big Wangs all the time. He was a caddy. He was a caddy at some golf club in Hollywood, and he'd come in there with this older caddy who was a regular at Big Wangs all the time. And this guy, he was like, I don't know, he's like my age, but he's super annoying, super cheap. And I was not cheap, but I just found him really annoying, right? I don't think I'm going to say his name. Yeah, I'm not going to say his name. But he, I just found him really annoying and cheap and weird or whatever. And like I ran into him everywhere in the last couple of years. And he's always like, hey, Kim. And I'm like, hi. I'm like just not interested. I'm like, dude, I don't want to talk about Big Wangs. I don't want to, like, he was like the guy that would like haggle over the extra price of ranch, right? But I think he'd always tip us 20% maybe. I don't remember. So I imagine he probably tipped fine. I only remember people who tip over the top or people who don't tip at all. I never remember the in-betweeners. So if I don't remember your tipping situation, you probably tip well. You probably tip what you're supposed to tip, right? So I'm at this golf tournament. It's like the big one, the PGA Genesis or whatever, which is so funny. I know nothing of these tournaments. So this guy comes over, and he's the guy from Big Wangs, right? He's like, I'm like, oh, fuck, I see that guy everywhere. And the guy I'm bartending with is like, I was just like, hopefully he doesn't like see me. I don't want to talk to him. So then the dude comes over to me, and he's like, the caddy comes over, and he's like, hey, Kim, what's up? And I was just like, oh, hey, how are you? And then he buys like 6 people a drink. He's like shaking hands or whatever. And I'm like, all right. And he's got this like hot girlfriend with him. It's like super hot girl. And I'm like, all right. So then he walks away. And then the next day and I asked him, this is the funny part, because I know nothing of golf. And I was like, oh, are you playing in this tournament? And he's like, yeah, I just stopped playing to come over here and buy a drink and have a drink. And everyone started laughing. And I was like, I don't know why everyone's laughing. I thought the PG, I honestly thought we were going to show up and everyone was going to get to play golf. I didn't know it was like a tournament with like 150 people and the winner gets like $1 million. Like, I didn't know. I just thought everyone got to play golf and we were just going to bartend. I don't know, man. That was a source of a lot of laughter all weekend. Plus I retold the story a lot because it was a crowd pleaser and I'm a comedian and I go where the laughs are. But he's like, yeah, no, he's like, no, I'm, obviously I'm just, he didn't say he wasn't playing because he made the joke and everyone laughed. And I was like, I don't get it. And so the next day he comes back and he walks away and these 3 adult men come over and they're like, oh my God, that's so-and-so. They're like, we'll be right back. And they run over to him and they're taking pictures with him. They're laughing. They film him for a minute and then they come back over to me and they're like, just give me a minute. I need a shot. I'm like so overwhelmed. That guy's like my hero. And I was like, yo, what's he do? Right? I was like, what? Who is he? I was like, is he like famous? And they're like, you don't know who so-and-so is? And I was like, I mean, I know him, but I don't know who he is. Like I've known him for like 10 years. And they're like, oh my God, you'll know if you know, whatever. And I was like, okay. So then the next day he comes over to me and I was like, yo, what do you do? And he goes, don't worry about it. And then the guy in the bar next to us was like, you don't know who this is? He goes, dude, can I buy your drink? And he goes, and the guy I know was like, no, I'll buy you a drink. And the stranger was like, no, man, you did a lot for my son. Let me buy you a drink. And the guy I know was like, he was like, all right. And I'm like, dude, what do you do? And he's like, nothing, don't worry about it. And then he starts asking me about comedy. And I was like, it's going all right. Be going better and I wouldn't be here, but we'll get there someday where I won't bartend anymore and I'll be just like a big comedian. It'll be awesome. Right. And I was like, you should bring your girlfriend. And I had met his girlfriend at this point. I was like, you should bring your girlfriend to one of my shows. And he's like, yeah. I was like, here, follow me on Instagram. I'll follow you back. I don't have any service. And he's like, yeah. So he hands me his phone. I find myself on his phone. I follow myself. And then I go to his page. And I was like, dude, why do you have 3.1 million followers? Like, what do you do? And he's like, don't worry about it. It turns out he has like one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And then I have a friend who knows him, but I thought he knew him the way I knew him at Big Wangs. He goes, that guy used to be a caddy. He's like super famous now. I'm like, what the fuck? The point of that story that goes back to my TikToking is that guy didn't give a fuck if I liked him or not back in the day. And I'm sure there was a ton of naysayers that were like, that guy's no one, that whatever. Just like my weird responses to some of this. And there's people that have weird responses to a ton of stuff I do. When I was going to write a book, a lot of people were like, yeah, right. Good luck with that. You know what I mean? There's always going to be people, and it's all projection, by the way. The few people that I've had weird responses to my TikToks, it's projection and it has nothing to do with me. And so be like this dude where you just keep swimming and just like leave the negativity behind you. And if someone, and it's not like I'm like, fuck off to these people, I'll never talk to them again, because it's not black and white. And that's one thing I've learned in the last 2 years through program, through working through this, through therapy, is it's just not all black and white. And it's not, I'm not going to burn down this friendship and walk away, but I am going to give it space, because it's like, oh, I can only, and I've said this so many times, in so many ways, Merry Christmas, that I can only really have people in my life right now that are just unconditionally supportive. Like I am, my dreams are starting to really come true. And I'm so grateful. I'm like present for it. Right. And I don't even know what the next step is. I don't even know how it's going to look, what it's going to look like. I just know that I like where I'm going. I'm grateful for where I'm going. And I know it's just going to keep getting more and more fucking awesome. And I don't have space in my life for people that aren't on that same wavelength. Whitney sent me I have a bubble in my throat. No, it's gone. Whitney sent me like a quote the other day that said, oftentimes, I'm going to look it up because I'm not going to be able to remember it truthfully, because oh boy, I have my text messages off, and I just saw that my neighbors just sent me a big message, which means that something bizarre is going down in the hood. I don't know why I said it like that. Sorry. But the quote Whitney sent me was, the higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. I'm going to write that down and put that in my space, because I find the further I get along and the more I'm leveling up, for the lack of a better term, the more that people that aren't on the same level are so in tune to knock me down a peg. And I know it's not a unique experience. I know a lot of people have dealt with this, and on the road to success, on the road to making their dreams come true, have dealt with people who they love, that you're like, I thought you supported me. I thought you loved me. And you know what? It's not a better than, less than situation. It's just where people are at. And I'm finding that if someone has a negative reaction to something you're doing, as long as it's not like, violent or racist, as long as you're like aligned with, aligned with good, aligned with the universe, you know what I mean? Like doing it has nothing to do with you. It's projection. It's something going on within their own self. And it's just, I don't have room anymore. And I'm going to go where the love is. And I'm not going to go to the hardware store for milk. And if you don't get what that means, it's like, don't go places that doesn't have what you need, like, I'm going to go where the love is. And instead of looking at messages or waiting for someone to message me that isn't that, I'm going to go to the messages that are like, I'm proud of you. I love you. And it was, and it's practice for me every day. Like it's not my normal where I live, it's not my normal frequency. And I'm working on it, and it's getting more and more to being my normal frequency. But I have to work at it because I was hardwired as a child to not look at the love that I was rejected by the people that were supposed to take care of me the most and love me the most. I was rejected by them. So my brain, my little child brain, equated love with conditions and rejection and abuse. And it took a long time to wire it that way. It's going to take a long time to unwire it that way. But I'm really grateful today that I am aware of that. I'm aware of it. And I go where the love is now. And I don't pay mind at all to the naysayers or the bizarre reactions, because I don't have time. We don't know how long we're going to be on this planet, man. And I'm one lucky broad that yesterday I have this big opportunity that's happening, and I needed references, right? That was going to be the next step, is I need references. And, a few people, I wasn't getting the responses. As I said, I was looking at the non-responses and feeling really bad. And I, the pity party of like, oh my God, no one's going to be a good reference for me. Blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, all right, we're in our pitying mode. We're in our pity party. Let's pause. Let's take a step back. And then as soon as I took a breath, sat with it for a minute, I came up with 9 people, text messaged all 9 people, and all of them were like 100%. Congratulations. We're so happy for you. And so maybe there's not going to be a big group of people, in your corner, but the 2 or 3 that are, man, it's like having thousands in your corner. And I'm just, if that makes any sense, I don't know how this episode went. I was really excited and nervous about recording it. And now I'm in my head. I'm like, was that a boring episode where I just talked about my journey, how I got here? But yeah, I'm one lucky broad. I'm one lucky broad that I'm here. Oh my God, did I just get? Oh, I thought I just got the acceptance to this job or the rejection to this job. So sorry, I just picked up my phone, and I shouldn't have done that because we're about to wrap up. But and as you guys know, I always around this time of the episode, I'm like, was this boring? Did you guys have fun? Did I have fun? And that just totally negates everything I just said of just focus on your own shit, do your best, and the right people will come into your life, and allow it. Episode 100. I am one lucky broad. And now for the poop scoop. I'm out of poop scoops. Yesterday, though, in the interview, so I had this Zoom interview, right? Final interview, our third interview for this thing that I really want. I have, and like clockwork, my body's like, oh, you have something really important going on today? We're not going to be able to stop shitting. That's it. We're going to poop all day. And just when you think you're out of poop, we're going to poop more. And so it was coming up to the interview, right? And it was like 10 minutes before the interview, before I had to be on the Zoom call. And I could not stop pooping. It happened again and again and again. And it was 2 minutes before the thing. And you know what? I just was like, all right. And it didn't happen. Thank God. Sort of, thank God. I mean, part of me kind of wishes it happened because this would make for a much more important, a more interesting story. But I resigned myself. I was like, you know what? Your chair is not cloth. If you shit your pants, if you have to poop in this thing, I really had this talk with myself. I was like, if you have to poop during this interview, just poop your pants. Just poop your pants. And I was like, if it comes down to it, just poop your pants. But then I started freaking out about the logic of that, where I was like, do you think the interviewer would know? Would my face change while I was pooping? I don't really have a poker face. I'm not able to be I don't think I can poop while talking to a person and not changing my face. I can't imagine shitting my pants and not having a reaction on my face. So thank God I didn't poop my pants, and it went well. And then the poop went away afterwards. I was done pooping afterwards. I mean, it had gotten to the point where it was just water coming out of there, just not even poop anymore. I don't understand. And everyone is like, it is fun. It's funny. Poop stories are funny, but truly I have IBS and no doctor is helping me. like my current doctor, who, you know, he at least is giving, he's at least trying to help me with this COVID situation. So I don't want to jump ship yet. But when I told him about my IBS, he was like, you should take a probiotic. And I was like, I do take a probiotic. And he goes, well, you should take the same one all the time. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, sometimes if there's another one that's like on sale, I'll buy that one, but that's pretty rare. And he was like, yeah, a lot of they're all kind of different. So you need to stay on the exact same one every day. That way your body can start using it and don't switch it up. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like, again, I typically do that, but that's good to know. What else? And he was like, oh, and then wrote on my chart that he solved it because he told me to take a probiotic. And I was like, dude, I already take a probiotic. You solved nothing. Doctors are sometimes worthless. That's mean to say. But you know what I mean? Like, I find the nurses are the ones that are like the most helpful. Maybe I'm biased because my best friend's a nurse, but I did not poop my pants in that interview. And like the comedian in me is a little disappointed that I didn't. But the professional woman in me who really wants this job is kind of glad. Cause like, what if I changed my face and she was like, what happened? Like, I don't know how to lie. I mean, I don't think I would have been like, oh, I pooped my pants. I probably would have. Oh, that would have been great. All right, guys, that's the episode. Episode fucking 100. Jesus, dude, how cool is that? Thank you. I can't wait to record 100 more. I can't wait to see where this thing goes. I feel like it has grown into such a cool thing. At least it's therapy for me. It's made me funnier on stage because I talk for an hour once a week, and I don't know, it's just like the benefits to this show have been, like beyond what I ever thought could happen. I never thought I'd get to 100 episodes. I don't even think I thought that far ahead. I don't know if you guys had this, those of you who grew up in trauma. I never thought I didn't think I'd be alive right now. Like 39 was like not even like it wasn't even an age that I thought would happen for Kim Kral, right? And I think I still get like what I like, and it's good in a way where it kept me present. But things were traumatic back then, and it was just like, all right, well, if I get to like 16, that'll be cool. All right, got to 16, let's get to 18. All right, we got to 18. What if we get to 21? Wow, we got to 21. And I've always sort of lived that way. And I thought like, and now here I am, and I'm making plans, and it's so. When I started Crawl Space, I was still in the like survival mode, if that makes sense, of like me being like, well, hopefully I make it to 37. All right, I made it to 37. I think I was 37. Hopefully I make it to 38, right? And now here I am, be 40 in 5 months, and I have so many plans, and I'm so excited for the future. And I think that's one of the biggest differences between me now and me 100 episodes ago. I was hanging on by a thread, and I didn't believe that things could change for me. I didn't believe that things could get better, that my dreams could come true. And now here we are 100 episodes later, and I just cannot wait to see what comes next. I'm so grateful, man. So fucking grateful. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you. Truly. That's the episode. 100, baby. You guys know the drill. If you can give it a review, that'd be great. We haven't gotten a review in a while, but yeah, it's all right. If you can give it a review, share, download, all that stuff. I have a book if you want to get that. It's on Confessions of a Recovering Party Girl. You can go to Amazon, or you can go to kimkral.com if you'd like a signed copy, sending those out weekly. So get on the next train. I don't know what that means, but and then I am doing my TikTok thing. If you want to follow my running journey, my running TikTok journey, follow me at Kim Kral, KYMKRAL, as well as everywhere else. And I also have a Patreon. Revamping that today with different levels and stuff. And I sent out stuff to Patreon people. So if you're a subscriber, you should be getting something soon, I hope. And if you haven't, I might not have your address in my database. So email me the address, your address, and I will send you. It's not anything crazy. It's like a thank you, whatever. It's not like I'm not sending you like balloons. I don't know why none of you probably thought I was sending you balloons. But yeah, so I have a Patreon and I have 2 bonus episodes every month. One with comedian Jeff May, where we have a podcast called Fine. We have a podcast because a lot of people love listening to us banter and have for many years and have suggested we get a podcast. So finally we have a Patreon exclusive where we just talk, honestly, we go on like 45 tangents in an hour and a half. I'm told it's really fun to listen to. He's one of my favorite people. And then a new one is a monthly one called Our Sexual Revolution, where I talk about my sex life. And my last February, it comes out on the 15th. So a week ago, I released it and I talked about being bisexual, something that I don't know. I don't talk about it a lot. I don't think of myself as bisexual, but I don't think of myself as straight, if that makes sense. I talk about it a lot in the episode. So if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, you can listen there. It's as little as like $3 a month if you want the bonus episodes and content. I would love that support if you're able. If not, I love that you just listen to this. And I think that's it. God, that's it. Kral Space 100. Fucking rad. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hope you're having a good day, good week. Stay safe. Be kind. I'll talk to you later. Bye.